Good morning, everyone. I am calling this hearing to order. For the record, my name is Kendra Lara, and I am the District 6 City Councilor and the Chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks. In accordance with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom, and it is being recorded. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. This hearing, again, is being recorded and it's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Fios Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ep@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you're interested in testifying virtually, please email Megan Kavanaugh at Megan, MEGHAN, Kavanaugh, KAVANAGH, at boston.gov for the link. Today's hearing is for dockets number 0818, 0819, 0820, 0821, 0824, and 0825. These matters were sponsored by the mayor and were referred to the Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks on April 26th of 2023. Docket number 0818 is a message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Gail Latimore as member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th, 2026. Docket number 0819 is a message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Kay Palmer Dunning as a member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th of 2026. Docket number 0820 is a message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Lee Matsueda. And Lee, correct me if I'm mispronouncing your last name.
Yeah, it's Matsueda. Thank you.
Okay, I got it right. Great. As a member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th, 2026. Docket number 0821 is a message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Rashida Boyd as a member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th of 2026. Docket number 0824, message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Lovette Jacobs as a member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th of 2026. Docket number 0825, a message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Stephen Ellis as a member of the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Review Board for a term expiring April 24th of 2026. We're also joined this morning by the administration, Allison Breezius, the Commissioner of the Environment Department for the City of Boston. I am really excited to be here with you all today. This is a really momentous occasion, and I cannot wait for the work that this review board has ahead of them. We as a city have really made a commitment to speed up decarbonization because we know it's one of the only ways that we're going to be able to reach our climate goals. And we also want to make sure that the process of decarbonization happens with the most vulnerable communities and the most impacted communities in mind. And so I'm really encouraged and excited to see so many people from so many different industries represented here on this review board. The city of Boston will be better because you are all here with us today. So at this moment, I would like to read a letter of absence from my colleague, Councilor at Large, Aaron Murphy, into the record. Dear Chair Lara, I am writing to inform you of my absence during this morning's City Council hearing on dockets number 0818 through 0821 and dockets number 0124 through 0825. Regarding the BERDO appointments, a representative from my staff will be listening in and following up with me. I look forward to reviewing the footage and following up as need be. I sincerely regret that I could not attend the hearing this afternoon as I made prior commitments that I must keep, and I think Councilor Murphy meant this morning. But it said, thank you, Aaron Murphy, Boston City Councilor at Large, and that letter will be officially put into the record. So now I want to pass the floor and turn the floor to our panel. And first up is going to be Commissioner Breezius. Commissioner Breezius, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councilors. As you noted, my name is Allison Brizius, and I serve as the Environment Commissioner for the City of Boston. Thank you for your time this morning and for your continued support of BERDO. I'm also joined today by Diana Vasquez, who just joined the city team as the BERDO Review Board Manager, and we are together pleased to really introduce you to the appointees before you today: Lee Matsueda, Gail Latimore, Kai Palmer-Dunning, Rashida Boyd, Lovette Jacobs, and Stephen Ellis, 6 of the mayor's appointees to the new BERDO Review Board who were able to join the hearing today. As you know, BERDO, the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Ordinance, sets declining emission standards for Boston's large buildings that are at least 20,000 square feet or 15 or more residential units. There are thousands of these buildings across the city. So the work of this board is going to be critical to our decarbonization success. And as you said, Chair, to ensuring that there is equity and a focus on our environmental justice populations at the center of this work. A key part of the ordinance was the creation of a 9-member review board established to oversee BERDO's implementation. Major responsibilities of the board include approval of flexibility measures for buildings, including building portfolios, individual compliance schedules, and hardship compliance plans, oversight of the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund, enforcement of BERDO, and advice and recommendations for the development and revision of regulations governing this ordinance. Board members are appointed, as you noted, by the mayor and approved by city council, which is why we're all here today. And the ordinance specifies that of the 9 members of this board, 1 shall be the chair of this committee, Councilor Laura, looking forward to having you on the board. And then 6 members shall be nominated by local community-based organizations, and 2 may be nominated by any individual or entity, including self-nominations. The review board members must have expertise in at least one of the following areas, and more than one is obviously a priority for us as we look to the future of this ordinance. Those areas are environmental justice, affordable housing, labor and workers' rights, workforce development, building engineering and energy, architecture and historic preservation, real estate development and management, and public health and hospitals. Expertise can be demonstrated through academic degrees, professional experience, volunteer experience, or lived experience. And so on behalf of Mayor Wu, I am very pleased to submit this strong group of appointees. We believe that their expertise and commitment will be a valuable addition to the team and will help ensure the successful implementation of this ordinance. And we thank these appointees for their service to the city. I look forward to any questions, councilors, that you may have, but first I'd like to invite nominees to share more about their background and interest. And Councilor Laura, I think you noted already, if you'll permit, we would like to start with Lee Matsueda and Gail Latimore as they have some time commitments pressing.
Absolutely. Why don't we do presentations and questions for Gail and Lee together, and then we'll move on to the rest of the panel. Is that okay?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Lee, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair Laura and members of the committee. My name is Lee Matsueda. I'm a resident of Jamaica Plain, a place I've called home for over 20 years. My wife's a public school educator, and my 6-year-old twin boys go to the Boston Public Schools at the JFK Elementary. So I'm really honored to have been nominated to this board by actually Karen Chen, the executive director at the Chinese Progressive Association, one of the nominating community-based organizations. And, I have a deep commitment to our communities, our residents, our environment. This really started for me when I was organizing with residents in the Four Corners neighborhood in Dorchester back in 2001. And so I cut my teeth knocking on doors, supporting neighborhood associations, attending community meetings, putting together rallies and actions on a number of different issues, including housing, schools, public safety, and public transit. So we built new schoolyards, protected tenants from eviction, continued a legacy of work to gain access back to the Fairmont commuter rail line, access that was denied in the wake of white flight from our city. And after that, I had the privilege of working at Alternative Community Environment in Nubian Square for 14 years. That was really a transformational experience for me that changed the way I think about power, the many connections across all the issues that our communities are facing, and really our ability to kind of create change both within ourselves, our communities, and our systems, right? So at ACE, I was in a variety of roles, the director of the T-Riders Union, later the political director. And, while I was there, I just saw what we could do when we came together. It became really clear on my work on public transit. One key moment I'll just mention is kind of in the face of some of the most severe service cuts and fare increases that have been proposed by the T. We brought together transit riders that depended on public transit, young people that were leading a fight on affordability and access, elders, people with disabilities, as well as the workers that were maintaining and operating the system. And together we kind of fought. And while we didn't actually stop all the fare increases and cuts, we laid the groundwork to win access to affordability for all young people through the Youth Pass. We were able to secure hundreds of millions of dollars investment in the MBTA. We also supported an effort that won Rider Voice and Vote for all regional transit authorities, and that work kind of continues today. And so that kind of brings me to my most recent chapter. Since 2020, I've been the executive director of an organization called Community Labor United. We're based in downtown Boston, and as the name suggests, we kind of bring together community and labor partners, mostly in greater Boston. Together we fight for racial, gender, economic, and environmental justice. And, Community Labor United, we do that through building strong coalitions led by community and labor partners. We run policy campaigns and projects that are supported by a great team of organizers, researchers, and strategists. So one of the coalitions we convened is the Green Justice Coalition. This coalition was one among a number of groups that really helped advocate and organize for the new building emissions reduction ordinance. And its members include groups such as Alternatives for Community Environment, the Chinese Progressive Association, Clean Water Action, Boston Climate Action Network. So, I've served on boards and advisory groups, none really quite like this one, but I think my experience is going to be an asset to this group. I'm going to continue to stay grounded in Community Labor United's community and labor partners that we work with, and I think these are groups that represent key stakeholders that are going to be affected by the ordinance in our effort to kind of address air quality issues, create healthier communities. Also talk about the issue of jobs and job pathways for residents. So I'm actually in Nubian Square today. We have an event to celebrate World Asthma Day with the Green Justice Coalition. And so my apologies, I'm not going to be able to stay on for the entirety of the hearing. But in closing, I'm just going to say racial, gender, economic, environmental justice it's in my heart. I'm really excited about this opportunity to work with other board members, Chair Laura, the administration, other stakeholders, including building owners. I was just talking actually to one of my board members. He's a leader of a union that owns a building that's going to have to adhere to our new regulations. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matsueda. Ms. Latimore, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Lara and members. My name is Gail Latimore. I'm the Executive Director of Codman Square in DC. I'm a 50+ year resident of Boston, having grown up in Roxbury and having lived for 20 years in Codman Square here in Dorchester, and now for the last 15 years in Hyde Park. I'm pleased to be here and pleased to be considered to serve on the BERDO Review Committee. I have been a community development practitioner for 30 years and have a degree in architecture and studied urban planning at the master's level as well. My work at Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corp provides me with the experience and background to be of service to the BERDO Review Committee. As Executive Director, I've supported the development and stewardship of about 1,000 units of affordable housing that CSNDC now has in its portfolio. We've done both rental and homeownership housing, so I have a perspective on both and the needs of low and moderate income renters and homeowners that I hope to share on the review board. We've also been involved in energy and environmental justice issues through our Eco-Innovation District initiative that we launched 10 years ago. Through that work, we've done things like attempting to get the Talbot-Norfolk Triangle neighborhood certified as a LEED for neighborhood development neighborhood. And we've fought hard, similar to what Lee mentioned, with a coalition of groups and elected officials to win $200 million for installation of the 4 relatively new stops on the Fairmount line, which has brought transit equity to our neighborhood. We are also working with local civic associations to deploy community-based energy ambassadors. Those are residents who we train to understand the array of energy retrofit programs available to low, moderate income renters and homeowners, all in an effort to increase the uptake of clean energy technologies in Dorchester. We also assist homeowners with rehab grants, a piece of which has to be used to do some level of energy retrofit in their homes. We have the Codman Square Climate Justice Alliance, composed of local residents and others who have been working with us for over 3 years now on a range of climate mitigation projects and climate legislation and programs, including trying to get more green job awareness, preparation, and curricular development into the Boston public schools. This is key to the job prospects for our young people. So I bring this background along with my lived experience in juggling family and living costs, including energy costs. I cannot believe how high those energy costs were last year. Those gas heating costs, it's ridiculous. So I would be using this experience to include my the advocacy that we do to help the predominantly low and moderate income BIPOC residents that we serve, to help them stay in place. This anti-displacement lens is an important consideration to represent on the BERDO review board. So I thank you again for your appointment consideration.
Thank you so much, Ms. Latimore. I would like to acknowledge that we've been joined by my council colleague, Councilor at Large, Michael Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, we are right now focused on Mr. Matsueda and Ms. Latimore because they have to leave us early. So I will ask a round of questions and then I will go to you for questions for the two nominees.
Yep, no problem. Waiving questions, just listening into the nominee.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you both for all of your hard work as Lee was going back and telling all of your work. I was like, oh yeah, that's where we met, and that's where that is the list. So I'm really excited to have you here. I guess one of the questions that I have and one of the concerns that I have as the chair, particularly as we talk about decarbonization and we talk about environmental justice, is this idea of a just transition and what does planning for a just transition for workers looks like. And so I'm really interested in what both of your views are on a just transition and what are the pain points that you see based on where we are right now, and you know how if there's any, what is your vision for what a just transition looks like in the city of Boston? That's my question. And Lee, you can go first, and then Ms. Latimore.
Yeah, it's a great question, Councilor Lara. You know, one thing that I've been really excited about, you know, so I obviously come more from the community organizing side, and yet the work I do today is all about trying to bridge, right, labor and community. And, you know, I think sometimes that's a false divide and sometimes it's real. And so I think, you know, what I believe is that there are really good projects that we can point to that are uplifting our communities, workers, and addressing our climate crisis. And we need to focus on those, and we need to bring our work together to kind of build those models out. I think there's huge opportunities with federal resources that are flowing to municipalities and our state to build the type of future that we want to see. One other just quick thing I'll mention is, you know, I've also been really excited because there's a new formation in the state that is being led primarily by the Massachusetts AFL-CIO to convene, I believe, what's called the Climate Jobs Table. And I've been asked to participate on that. We've had a few board meetings initially. And what's really cool to see about that effort, which is mirrored in at least 5 or 6 other states, is that you see labor taking a different, more direct position on what does it look like for them to be part of the conversation on climate and just transition. And so, you know, I'm encouraged because there are examples of what they're trying to shift in the larger conversation around, let's say, just transition. For starters, they're talking about what that looks like from a worker perspective and what it looks like to protect workers that potentially stand to lose work hours or even jobs as a result of a transition away from fossil fuels. And so I think that's the type of, you know, things that we should be thinking about. And what's been exciting is, no question, like 60 different environmental and community-based groups signed on in support of it right away because they understand that it's the type of thing that we need to be thinking about. So that's just an example. I'm happy to share more information about that if that's needed. And this is obviously something that I'd like to continue to be actively involved with that conversation going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Matsueda. Ms. Latimore?
Yes, I agree. It's a really good question. Part of the work that we're doing on our Cobden Square Climate Justice Alliance, which is composed of mainly of residents and others concerned about these issues, involves the project that I talked about related to curricular development and green job awareness in Boston Public Schools. I think that is one approach. It's not so much for folks who have jobs already, but how we prepare our young people for what I understand are going to be, huge opportunities, growing and huge opportunities in the energy and climate justice space or climate job space, green job space. So we have been working with Judith Baker. I don't know if you know her, but she's one of the leaders in the Friends of Madison Park High that has been really pushing hard, and we've been supporting her in that push to work with the Boston Public Schools to think about green job awareness. A lot of the students and parents have no idea what the opportunities are and might be for green jobs that are good paying jobs. And how do we kind of prepare students for those jobs? How do we kind of develop the curricula? How do we have hands-on practicums? I understand there's going to be quite a bit of energy retrofit and other types of work done in the Boston Public Schools. How do we use that as an opportunity for the students to kind of, shadow that work and start learning? But also from the small business development side, one of the things that our climate justice group has been advocating for is, how do we bring more opportunities for local minority business people, tradespeople, electricians, carpenters, et cetera, all of whom, as I understand from the Mass Clean Energy Center, are much needed already and are going to be even more needed in the clean energy space. So how do we get those MBE tradespeople kind of trained up, tweaked, not they already have the skills, but tweak it in a way that have their work be even more relevant to the green job industry and the many burgeoning opportunities that I understand exist now and will exist even more in the future. So we just applied for, in conjunction with 2 other community development corporations, which include Cobden Square, Dorchester Bay Economic Development Corp, and JPNDC. We just applied for a minority business development grant from the feds to do just that, to really start the process of getting the local small businesses that we know who are tradespeople, working also with the Mass Minority Contractors Association to kind of get them trained up, get them looking at opportunities, contracting opportunities with public entities, et cetera, and more trained up in connection with folks like the Emerald Cities Collaborative that is doing just that type of work. So I see that as one angle, those things as angles for this just transition, our youth and our existing minority business people.
Thank you so much, Ms. Latimore. Myself, Councilor Coletta, and Councilor Legion just recently had a hearing about creating an environmental justice curriculum in BPS. And I think oftentimes when we think about environmental justice, we think about one, what are the causes of climate change, right, on the science end, and we also think about it on the social justice end when we think about environmental justice. And my question and my push during the hearing was specifically, how do we prepare students at BPS to also respond to climate change with vocational training in our schools that is really in alignment with environmental justice. So I see when I talk about environmental justice, I see those 3 prongs, and I think that you and Mr. Matsueda have really outlined them very clearly. Commissioner Brezius, can you talk a little bit about how you are, I'm sorry, Director, can you talk to me a little bit about how you anticipate the review process happening? So there's a meeting, how can you talk a little bit about what you're anticipating, what decisions the review board is going to be making specifically, and what folks are going to be looking for?
Absolutely, Councilor. So there will be a variety of work before this board. I think in the first year, a lot of it will be focused on initially advising and providing feedback to the administration and the Air Pollution Control Commission as we finalize the regulations that govern BERDO. We're in the middle of phase 3, sort of launching up that final phase of regulations with a lot of the critical decision points for buildings. So phase 2 had the regulations about how we could form this board, which is why we're here now. In phase 3, we're going to be looking at things like how is the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund overseen? What are the uses for those funds? How are those funds supporting buildings, prioritizing environmental justice populations, but also looking at just transition, as you said, energy affordability and other crucial topics as we support buildings in their transition to decarbonization. They'll also be setting the rules and regulations for items like hardship compliance plans. What constitutes a hardship? What are the unique features? What does a building need to have done first to show that there is a hardship? Or how can buildings combine when you have an owner with multiple buildings, such as a CDC or a university, or many types of buildings? How could they combine their buildings, and how? They'll also then, after those regulations are set, we expect buildings to bring proposals and applications to the board to request an individual compliance schedule, request a portfolio, request a hardship compliance plan. So there will be regular meetings where they review applications from building owners for alternative or custom strategies to decarbonize outside of the standard process. They'll also review enforcement as needed to ensure that the ordinance is being implemented effectively and that buildings are achieving their standards. They will then oversee, after the regulations are set, a lot of the applications to receive the Equitable Investment and Fund money and then to distribute it to buildings. And then eventually over time, they will also oversee assessments of how is the ordinance working? Is it working as expected? Are there amendments that need to? So it is a very, very busy board. We really, truly appreciate the service of the appointees and the variety of types of work that will come before the board are many.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I see that it's 11 o'clock, so I just want to ask one last question to Lee and Gail before we let them go, and maybe see if Councilor Flaherty has questions for them. So given that the first year, and it seems like the first really beginning chunk of the review board is going to be focused on regulation, can you tell me, shortly and concisely, because I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to, about what you're going to be looking for when developing regulation and what you're hoping to bring to the regulation, like what lens you hope to bring, and figuring, kind of answering those two big questions out.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, I could start. I mean, I've been on the BERDO Community Advisory Group since the fall. And so I guess I'll be double serving for a little while. And, there have been quite a bit of work, technical and other work. But, I would be looking at, as a review board member, at equity issues, really looking at, who the proponent is that is coming before the committee, how they're doing in terms of their building performance, and what their resources are, and if they are, and I'd be looking, as I said, with a lens to kind of, as we already have been on the community advisory board group, we've been looking at issues related to how the regulations that we're putting in place, could there be some unintended consequences in terms of people being displaced? So being very careful about, how to look at any of these factors, emissions issues, requests for waivers, requests for resources through the fund, how those relate to, issues like affordable housing and other things like that. So I guess that's generally speaking how I would respond to your question. I hope I captured it correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredibly helpful. Mr. Matsueda.
I just probably three quick things. I mean, I think for me, I'm really interested, a lot of different types of building owners, right, in our communities, and some with resources, some that just don't have them. And so I think when I think of equity, I'm thinking about some of those owners that might not have access to the type of resources that others do. And so just thinking, I'm really interested in making sure when I think of equity, how we work with them, right? To whatever it's obviously not just monitor their emissions, but then start to take actions to actually improve emissions from their buildings. So I think that's one thing. The second thing I am excited about, Gail, you mentioned it, is the fund. I think, communities were very clear in the process around how they wanted to see those resources used. And I think that's really important. And so we'll be paying attention to those that are not able to do the work and contribute to the fund. I think that's a huge responsibility for us as well. And then the third one I would just talk about is I think on the worker side, worker standards and protections around how this work gets done, and I feel like there are opportunities. Obviously, there's a bigger question around making sure we have the right workforce, but we got really important, great set of folks in the trades and others that I think should be doing this work if we can figure it out. And so I'm really interested to make sure that whether it's, whoever's doing the work, there's really strong protections and standards in place, but also, that we address, start talking about the issue of like, how are we getting other people into these jobs? And, Lovette's here with us, like IBW does some amazing work to bring in, people of color and women from our communities. So just excited to kind of think through that as a huge opportunity around the jobs piece.
Thank you so much. At this moment, I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined by City Council President Ed Flynn from District 2. President Flynn, we are doing a round of questions for Mr. Matsueda and Ms. Latimore, who are going to leave us. Councilor Flaherty is ahead of you, and then I will give you the floor for any questions for the two before we move on to everybody else. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just briefly to Lee and Gail, I just want to get their perspective on my focus, obviously, on the small property owner, owner-occupied city resident. Many of our residents are, house rich and cash poor, that very much like to make the necessary upgrades and improvements on their properties and adhere to the regulations and around climate resiliency. Yet, obviously, given the increase in property taxes, and if they're not rent gouging, and if they're being good, fair landlords, and having sort of those extra resources available to do the necessary work and upgrades to get their buildings in compliance, they may struggle. And just want to get your perspective on sort of that small property owner, again, that house rich, cash poor person, and what efforts will you make to connect with those folks and provide the necessary resources and/or potential waivers where necessary.
Yeah, I think that, for those that as I understand, the minimum square footage is maybe outside for the small mom and pops for BERDO purposes in terms of 1 to 4 family owner occupants. However, there are some, mom and pop types that own investment properties. And I think that we certainly would want to think about the issues that we've been talking about with that population, which I definitely do a special outreach to those folks that have a smaller size portfolio. Consider, their total portfolio, consider, the equity issues related to, especially if they're doing, relatively NOAAs, meaning naturally occurring affordable housing. To me, that goes a long way in terms of supporting folks with the fund and providing, resources and if necessary, waivers. So I think I would look at a number of factors related to that, and also advocate for folks who are aligning with other parts of the city's mission, affordable housing being one, to have some additional support or waivers. So looking at a range of factors is what I would do, but definitely outreach to those folks in particular.
Thank you, Gail. And that's the group, Gail, obviously the small property owner, small portfolio, the good neighbors, in many instances, charging sort of a below market rent situation. And, they're the first folks to volunteer in communities, are the first folks to write a check, when someone's in need or there's a specific cause, and just want to, and those are folks that constantly are just doing the right thing and want to continue to do the right thing. Arguably exempt, many of them are going to come to the forefront wanting to participate and to get in compliance, but for some it may be unattainable just because of everything else that they've got going on with the increased property taxes, and they're charging nominal or below market rent. So I appreciate your answer to that. And then just to Allison, Allison, in the language, I want to get your take on it. We read it when it was introduced. There's a provision in there talking about the members to this board, and it makes it. I don't have it in front of me. You probably have it in front of you, but and/or Madam Chair may have it. Is that it talks about the members that are participating? I think are they considered municipal employees for the purposes of their time on this board? Can you just read that those couple of sentences and just tell me what you mean by that?
Sure, Councillor. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but I can work to bring it up. But generally speaking, I believe there was an ordinance introduced at the same time as these appointees were put forward, asking that they be made special employees for the purposes of this board, to ensure that they would not be considered full municipal employees. That would allow them to act on behalf of the city, but not be conflicted out of other work across the city as well.
Right. It was sort of special employee. So I want you to bring me through the special employee language and just kind of tell me what your interpretation of that means. Is it on a compensation standpoint? Is it on a pension standpoint? Or is it on they're allowed to participate and do other municipal business, but there's a disclaimer that they're technically a special employee, and so that from a conflict standpoint. So I looked at that three different ways. I looked at that, is this conflict of interest language, or is this sort of compensation, pension, retirement language, and/or is there some type of exemption that allows special employees to do things that other employees aren't? So I just need you to kind of walk me through what is the spirit and the intent of that exact language.
Commissioner, before you respond to Councillor Flaherty's question, I want to make sure that we let Gail and Lee step out. So Councillor Flaherty, do you have any more questions for both of them?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Chair, you can excuse the participants.
Thank you. Great. So, and then, and Commissioner, you can go ahead and answer Councillor Flaherty's question. Thank you so much, Lee and Gail. And if we have,
I am able to stay just a little longer, and I'm really interested in this answer to this question.
Great.
Thank you.
Lee, we will follow up if we have any more questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, you have the floor to continue.
Absolutely. And Councillor Flaherty, but before I'm gonna speak to you about my understanding, but then I will happily get back to you with much more specific information from our law department, who are really the experts in this space.
Right.
So,
and just so you know, Allison, so I ask it because I recognize the language. Obviously, I wear two hats. I was the counsel, but I'm also an attorney. But it's also language that we don't see in a lot of other task force and/or membership. So it was sort of, it caught my attention as the longest serving member there, 20 years. Not a lot of sort of boards and commissions have that, sort of that caveat, those two sentences. So I just want to get a perspective as to, I guess, what it means. How do you guys interpret it? What's the methodology behind it? And is that language moving forward that we're going to start to see with other board members and commissions and task force? So
yes,
it's based on my experience.
And I should clarify, I am absolutely not a lawyer, so you have more expertise in this space than I do, and I will connect you with the appropriate people in the law department to answer it officially. But as I understand it, this is special municipal employee as a status, and I'm going to read to you from the state website right now, that can be assigned to certain municipal positions. Basically, it's about conflict of interest law. We want to make sure that these review board members are not conflicted out of any other business before the city. Several boards and commissions in the city already have this, and I know that we're looking as a whole across many other boards and commissions to ensure that is reflected there. So it's basically for a position can be designated as a special municipal employee, provided that they hold a part-time position. It's not a full-time position for the city, that it allows them to have another job during normal working hours, and that either they are not paid or that they're paid below a certain amount for their work on the board. And so BERDO review board members are eligible for compensation, but it is capped at a lower amount. It's not a full-time job by any stands, as with many of our boards and commissions. So it's basically a designation to allow them to have that special status that allows our law department to support them in their role in this space and have those protections as from the city, but not be conflicted out of business as a normal municipal employee as I would. But that is my personal understanding of it, and let me connect you with the law department to get the formal official answer on all of those details. And then also for all of the review board members, we will be connecting them also with the law department and the state and the city ethics teams to make sure that they understand all of those elements and how conflict of interest law works there.
Very good. And I was going to recommend that the individual appointees, that they be aware of sort of what that status means and what they can and cannot do in terms of, private participation in other professional capacity. So that's important for the applicants for the proposed members to be aware of that. And then just a follow-up question: when you talk to the legal department, does that make one, pension eligible if there's a municipal, city, state, federal employee, or that they've got prior service, does participate in this program? Does that allow the clock to accrue for pension retirement purposes? That would be my follow-up.
Sure, and just
and
a little
same thing
bit,
that the individuals that are participating just need to be made aware of it.
Absolutely, Councillor. And I was just received some information from the team. There is a omnibus bill from 2009 that was put through council, transforming many boards and commissions over to this special status. So many of our boards and commissioners are in this special status now. And so this is really to bring the BERDO review board in line with that standard that many boards and commissions have across the city. But happy to connect more on the pension or other language there.
Thank you, Alice. Coincidentally, that was the year that I was actually off the council. So it makes sense. Just sort of seeing it, my experience. And so that'd be great. Just if you had that final question, just if you can let me know if time continues to accrue for members who have prior service to our city, to our state, and to our federal government. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Berry. President Flynn, you have the floor, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the panelists.
Thank you. I have no further. I have no comments or questions. Just want to say thank you to the panel for being here, for the important work they're doing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, President Flynn. Thank you for being here with us. So at this moment, we're going to move on to the panelists. I am going to call the order. We're going to start with Kay Palmer-Dunning. Then we're going to go with Rashida Boyd, Lovette Jacobs, and ending with Stephen Ellis. We're going to have each of you just share a little bit about yourself and what you're hoping to accomplish, and then we'll do questions with the counselors before we close out. So first up on the list is Ms. Kay Palmer-Dunning. You have the floor. Oh, excuse me, Kai. Is that how, am I mispronouncing it?
Thank you, Councilor
Lauren. I have
Lauren.
to start asking people for their pronouns in their introduction so that I don't do that again, but please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Lauren, and the other members of the committee for your time and consideration this morning. My name is Kai Palmer-Dunning. I'm the Director of Equitable Building Transition at Home Energy Efficiency Team and a member of the Housing Justice Organization Reclaim Roxbury. I'm a proud resident of Boston. I grew up in Roxbury, and where much of my family still lives. I currently live in Jamaica Plain. In my role at Home Energy Efficiency Team, I work on equitable decarbonization, building decarbonization projects. Some of the projects include trying to connect households with better connect households with mass save programs and other efforts to work at the local level to address energy burden. Projects having to do with air quality around induction cooking and the awareness around gas. Today is World Asthma Day, and I will be joining Lee at the World Asthma Day event in Nubian Square after this, so I'm looking forward to continuing that work. Previous to my role at HEAT, I worked as the Buildings and Communities Associate at Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships, where I worked on building energy codes, zero energy building decarbonization projects, many of them having to do with building performance standards like BERDO. Previous to that, I interned at a local environmental organization called Mass Climate Action Network, where I worked on municipal utility programs, ensuring that they are meeting the same renewable portfolio standards that the larger utilities like Eversource and National Grid have to meet at the state level. I also served on the board of Mass Climate Action Network for a number of years, helping to ensure that the programming at the organization continued to move forward in that direction. It would be my immense privilege to represent my community and the other residents of Boston on the BERDO Review Board. I've worked in the environmental space for over 10 years, addressing climate change through sustainability, clean energy policy, and building decarbonization. I've studied and made recommendations about the implementation of building performance standards like BERDO. Boston is part of a growing list of cities like New York, Washington, D.C., Colorado, Denver, Colorado, and St. Louis that have adopted policies, building performance standard policies. I understand the importance of policies like BERDO as a necessary tool for cutting building emissions in existing buildings over time in order to meet our climate goals. And I thank this committee and the Environment Department for its continued work to ensure Boston is a leader in addressing climate change around the country. I am proud to be nominated by Armani White from the community-based organization Reclaim Roxbury. Reclaim Roxbury has worked tirelessly for almost a decade to ensure housing development in Roxbury is truly affordable for residents, and there's economic development opportunities as well. Some of the work that we've done with Reclaim Roxbury is including facilitating community meetings, participating in BPDA meetings having to do with Plan Nubian Square, and conducting voter awareness during local and state elections, and supporting other organizations like ACE and Codman Square other organizations in their work. As a member of Reclaim Roxbury and an advocate of environmental justice communities, it would also be my privilege to serve on this review board because of the commitments that have been made around equity and environmental justice. Boston's low income and residents of color are disproportionately impacted by high energy burdens, urban heat island effect, and unaffordable housing. The Equitable Emissions Investment Fund provision of BERDO is an important step in addressing these environmental justice inequities. I will work to ensure that funding is spent on projects that help promote climate resilience and adaptations for residents of vulnerable communities. Again, thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Palmer-Dunn. Next up on the list is going to be Rashida Boyd. Rashida, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, my name is Rashida Boyd. I'm a resident of Dorchester, born and raised for over 45 years. My mother was born in Boston in the 40s. My grandmother came from North Carolina. So I love Dorchester, I love Boston, that's all I know, and I refuse to leave, regardless of anything. I worked at Mass General Professional Business Office for 13 years until COVID happened. In 2021, I decided, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? So it allowed me to evaluate my situation, and I wanted to be more purpose-driven. So I resigned, and I was scared to do it. I didn't know what I was very scared. But I went to trade school. I went to school for HVAC and refrigeration, where I obtained my EPA, my HotWorks, OSHA 10. Then I just dwindled around there. Then I realized how toxic refrigerants were. And I said, well, do I want to be invested in this thing? I'm more green. So then I met Weezy Weinstein from Action for Equity. And she said, I think you're great for this. She seems to think I'm great for everything. But she said, I think you're great for this, position at New Ecology. So now for the past 15 months, I've been at New Ecology. I'm a rater in training, a HERS rater. We test for energy efficiency, ventilation inspection. So I literally went from steel toes to stilettos. I mean, stilettos to steel toes. Sorry, that's opposite. So that's why I'm glad to get dressed today, because I'm always dirty and things like that. I'm always in buildings, and I do the work every day. That's what I do. I work with contractors. Sometimes they don't understand when they see us. They don't want to see us. They're kind of scared because they're used to the old way. Didn't anyone care about energy or ventilation or air quality? They just threw the house up. Didn't care if it had mold in it. So that's a challenge sometimes, explaining to them why it's so important. So what I tend to do is, if they want to stay in while we run the test, we let them stay in, and then they have more awareness to it. And that's what I do. I work for New Ecology. I do testing. I'm in buildings all day. I'm dirty all the time. And when one more thing I like to say. So I've noticed that because I'm from Dorchester. This is when I'm at work. Everyone at work doesn't look like me. Nobody looks like me. And everyone, when they leave, they get in their car or truck and they go to another town or city. So to me, that's kind of a problem. We need to employ our community. Not saying, there's enough for everyone, but let's start off by employing our community, because I know some very, very, very bright people that can do this work even without the schooling. Never mind if you give them the opportunity to get the education. They can do it without the education. So that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Boyd. Following, we have Lovette Jacobs. Lovette, you have the floor.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Laura and board members. I'm happy to be here with you guys today. I'll try to be as brief as possible. My name is Lovette Jacobs. I was born and raised in Boston, Dorchester specifically. I currently reside in Brighton. From graduating at Hyde Park High to raising my son in Roxbury briefly and pushing him through the charter school match system, our city has undergone so many changes. I've always believed that you need to be a part of the change that you want to see. So with me becoming a member of organized labor, I guess you can say I did it my own way. As a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 103 specifically, my goal was to become a licensed electrician. In the process of doing so, I became an advocate for women's advancement in construction, equitable treatment for minorities, and the representation of inner city employees for job sites within the city of Boston. Within my local, I sit on the Women's Committee, Renew, which stands for Reach Out and Engage New Electrical Workers, and the EWMC, which is the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus. As a BERDO Review board member, I truly believe that I can bring some great ideas and enthusiasm to the table. With my construction background, I also feel like I offer a different vantage point. Thank you to Community Laborers United's own Lee Matsueda, even though he's gone. I didn't get a chance to say thank you to him for the nomination. I would like to say thank you to Mayor Wu for the appointment, and I look forward to serving with the best of my ability and working alongside some amazing people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lovette. Next up, we have Stephen Ellis.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Laura and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the Boston City Council this morning. For the record, my name is Stephen Ellis, and I will, by the opportunity to serve on the City of Boston inaugural BERDO Review Board. To provide a background on who I am, I have been a resident of Brighton for the last 5 years. I became a Boston transplant from New York City 8 years ago. I serve as Director of Data Analytics for the Sustainability team at Boston University, where I have worked for over 4.5 years. In addition to my role, I currently serve as a member of the STARS Steering Committee, a sustainability performance reporting framework from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, also known as ASHE. My work involves leading BU's sustainability data analytics and reporting related to the university's climate action plan and zero waste plan. This includes being the university's primary liaison and reporter for BERDO 2.0. Since joining BU, I have been involved with reporting under BERDO 1.0, participated in developing BERDO regulations, and provided a higher education perspective on the challenges and opportunities while complying with the ordinance. In my professional roles, I strive to provide data integrity and offer an environmental justice lens to climate action frameworks. In my experience in sustainability in higher education and climate action goes back almost 10 years. Before it's BU, I worked at Second Nature, a national nonprofit supporting higher education institutions to accelerate climate action through bold commitments and reporting. As the climate programs manager for Second Nature, I reviewed and supported the climate leadership commitments of over 500 colleges and universities and evaluated their greenhouse gas inventories as well as their resilience plan. As a Brighton resident, I have historically been a member of organizations such as Boston Young Black Professionals, Boston Ujima Project, and Boston While Black. I'm excited about the prospect of having hands-on involvement in equitably shaping Boston's building decarbonization efforts and offering both a higher education and BERDO reporting perspective, both of which are pivotal to the city's larger goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. In closing, I would like to thank Dennis Karlberg, the Associate Vice President for University Sustainability at Boston University, for nominating me. And thank you to Mayor Wu and the Boston City Council for this opportunity to serve. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellis, and thanks to all of you for sharing a little bit about yourself and your background and what you're hoping to accomplish as a member of the review boards. I have questions. I think I'm going to be a little bit more pointed with my questions directly at you all, but I'm going to start first with Ms. Jacobs and Ms. Boyd, because it is absolutely incredible and not lost on me that the two members of representing the labor unions here are Black women. And so thank you for all of your work. It is definitely a different time in a brand new, whole new world. So very grateful to have you two here. And so my question for the two of you, given that at least here at this hearing, I know that we have other folks that we have to confirm, you are representing labor. I think it would be the same question that I asked Lee and Gail. Like, one of the things about decarbonization, especially these regulations around buildings, is the ongoing conversation is what is the impact that it's going to have on workers? And so can you talk a little bit about what your vision is for a transition away from fossil fuels to kind of like this green initiative specifically for labor movement?
You want to go first? Okay, my mic is off, so I'll go first. I'm hoping that it will be a smooth and equally informative transition. I know with me working with electrical, to speak to what Rashida was saying earlier, a lot of the times, like, guys are just, and not to say that it's just a guy thing, but let's be honest, we work in a predominantly male field. Guys are pretty much set in their ways. So being around, whether you're roughing a building and you're working with asbestos or, fiberglass that can come from insulation, it's all unhealthy. And in the moment, you don't really see it and realize it as much, because it's like, short term, it probably won't affect you, but we want to think towards the future where it's like 30, 40 years from now, I'm not having to go to the hospital and I have cancer or emphysema or anything, like any ailments that come from working in the trades when you're just trying to make an honest living. So my goal is for it to be as informative as possible, and like stressing the importance of it, because a lot of guys, well, people, I should say, I'm just naturally trained to say guys, but a lot of people don't understand the importance of efficiency and working safely and thinking towards the future. I'm young-ish, so my generation, we tend to live in the now and we don't focus so much on the future. So that's my goal, to make sure that, people are focusing on today and also thinking about tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacob. Ms. Boyd, you have the floor.
Hi. Yes, well, I realize that any transition with anyone, including myself, is uncomfortable. So when we're going into new constructions and you have your electricians, your carpenters, even the managers, the contract managers in the trailer, they don't want to hear it. But it's cold. It's cold, and that's why I sometimes like when they come in while we're doing our blower door test, while we're doing our ventilation test, and then you crack a window and they see they see it, because if you don't, this is fairly new. This is new. We were so comfortable in our comfort, and we didn't realize that the ozone layer we didn't realize it. We just wanted to be comfortable right now. So I always have a little bit of patience because it's new. Not everyone is aware of what I'm aware of, even if they are in the trade. So I just talk to them, and it's cold. They have to do it. And I show them, this is why you have to do it. Some of the guys, well, I'm the only woman. So a lot of the guys, they don't want to hear it from me anyways. Never mind me trying to enforce something on them. But I've noticed that as time from the beginning when I started until now, they're warming up to it. I think it will be a good transition. It's new, so you're gonna have your resistance. But I have hope, and I see it's gonna be okay. It's gonna work out, or we're just gonna zap our world out. Like it's either one or the other. It's not that difficult, Let's make sure our grandchildren are okay. That's all.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing from y'all, I think is really astute on the ground, because oftentimes the conversation about workers is kind of like up here. But for you too, as women in the labor movement, it's like, how do we do education? Once you understand the problem and you know what's at stake, we can help move people along. And so I've always been of the mind of everything happens from the bottom up, not from the top down. And so I'm really interested in how to involve workers on the ground, the people who are actually doing the labor, in doing this kind of learning and kind of like being like, hey, this is what's happening. This is why we have to transition. And this is what it might look like. And so it's really encouraging to hear directly from people in the labor movement that once we kind of go over that hill, like you said, it's something new that we can kind of start moving together in the same direction. So I really appreciate it. So, Stephen, this question is for you, and you answered it a little bit, so please feel free to, if it's too repetitive, but I'm really interested in your work in data analytics. So can you talk a little bit, you kind of answered the question while you were giving your response. Can you tell me about how your data analysis work will inform your work here on this review board at all, if at all?
Yes, thank you, Chair Laura. Specifically related to BERDO, I do the reporting for Boston University, and we have over 100 buildings associated with the ordinance, or subjected to the ordinance, I should say. And so a lot of the work involves, working with various stakeholders, as well as working with the vendors that provide us the energy, to ensure that our information is accurate and is able to, be submitted on time, of course. But one of the things that I want to highlight specifically with respect to higher education or any other large properties that are on one system, a centralized system, or one meter, it can become a bit of a difficulty in trying to decide how do we report on new buildings individually. So at Boston University, we have elected to do what we call an allocation of our energy to represent each and every one of our buildings. It's not the perfect way to do it, because obviously all building types have different types of usages and considerations that need to come into play. Nevertheless, that is where we start. And I continue to work with our team here at the university to ensure that we are projecting to the future to sub-meter our buildings. So I hope that can be a start to answer your question, but I can go much further if you would like.
No, I think that that's great because you also talked a little bit about what that looks like at BU, so I was able to get some insight. Thank you so much. And Mr. Palmer-Dunning, it seems, at least for the folks on this call, you and Mr. Ellis have background with energy codes, building performance standards. So can I extend the question to you about what you're looking for, as this review board is going to really be focused on development regulation, at least for the first part of our time together? Can you talk a little bit about what you're going to be looking for in developing regulations and what you're hoping to see?
Sure. So I think Lee and Gail also kind of got into it as well a little bit, but I'm definitely looking for kind of a sense of how smaller properties would be complying with meeting BERDO, specifically moderate income properties. Being able to figure out a pathway to connect them to existing programs at the local and state level for complying with BERDO, understanding that a lot of property owners are coming at this from very different stages of knowledge around how to decarbonize their building portfolios. So I'll be looking to create like a robust portfolio of information for property owners, and then really creating an understanding and implementation strategy around the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund. So I see that as like a really important tool for providing gap funding for property owners, as well as creating different resilience and adaptation strategies for them to help residents and residents of their properties. So I'm looking to figure those things out, as well as collaborate with all of the impressive people that are on this board to really figure out how to best implement BERDO so that it is a effective decarbonization strategy for our existing buildings.
Thank you so much, Mr. Palmer-Dunning. I think what I'm hearing is that this review board is really going to benefit from the depth and breadth of experience that we have representing it from all of you. So I'm really grateful to be doing this work together. I don't have any further questions, and it looks like my other council colleagues are not here for a second round. And so I want to thank you all for all of your work. I want to thank you for being here with us today. At this moment, we are going to be turning the floor over for public testimony. If you are here for public testimony, please state your name and neighborhood or affiliation, and try to keep your comments to 2 minutes. As panelists, you are more than welcome to stay for public testimony. Megan, do we have anybody signed up for public testimony today?
I was just going to say, no public testimony today.
Beautiful. So we have no public testimony at this moment. I believe that we are all done. Does anybody have any closing statements or anything that you want to make sure that we put on the record? I see Mr. Palmer-Dunning and Ms. Jacobs both have their mics on, so please go ahead.
Oh, no, I say no, I'm all set. For your time. I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacob. Mr. Palmer-Dunning, you have the floor.
Same. I'm a huge proponent of collaboration and collective knowledge, and I really look forward to working with all of you to make sure that BERDO and Boston's other decarbonization policies are effective and help meet the needs of all of its residents.
Thank you so much, and thank you all of you. Thank you, Commissioner Brezias, for being here with us today, and this hearing of the Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks is now adjourned. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.